particular for their work on editing the book, and to Caroline, who did such a wonderful job persuading me to carve it into originally. So there will be a sequel to come, which I'm currently in the process of editing, and my current notes on it, it's very hard for a writer to kind of assess their own work when you're this close to it, but my sort of relief, it's not catastrophic, is the kind of note. I'm willing to go out there and say it's not catastrophic.
There's no note to say, brilliantly done.
Yeah,
do more of it.
Yeah, more of this. Yeah, this is right. No, it's all, rewrite this is terrible. But like particular thanks to Waterstones and Waterstones Greenwich for putting so much effort into this place, and to Lizzie D. Lizzie D, is she's the bakery lady? Lizzie D, who's done this wonderful spread of Persian and Greek themed food, no refined ingredients in it, so I think she did more research into the food of the period than I did. So maybe in the paperback we can write some of this food into it. So.
We're a British Book Award for Best Food at Publishing Party. For the year already.
Yeah, but anyway, I'll do a quick reading in a second. The last thanks, I guess I'll say, are to Herodotus. If you haven't read him, wonderful ancient writer from whom I managed to pick up the story and maybe put my own little spin on it. And to my parents who are here today, and to whom the book, if I can find the dedication star, because the book is dedicated to them, because they've supported me so much, both financially and also emotionally through a long period of writing. And of course, thanks to you all for coming here. It really means like a tremendous amount that you've come here to drink the wine at least, and maybe to buy. I don't care. If you buy the book, I just want my agent and my editor, they care that you buy the book. I would just like you to read it. So what I mean is, if you can't afford it, steal it. All the staff is drunk. No one will know.
This is the point I had to stop you earlier. Remember that?
Actually, no. Watch out for that. She's dangerous. Claire at the back. She's the one to watch out for. So yeah, obscure the sight line. Take the book. Anyway, I'll do a quick reading. I'm trialing a kind of choose your own adventure thing with my reading. So there's kind of 4 sections that are quite good to read, each with a kind of elemental theme. So there's gold, fire, iron, and blood. So is there any preferences in the crowd? So the guys trumped for blood. It's a good one to read. I'm kind of glad that you said that, because Vestal, who's where is Vestal? Sticking out of Vestal there, who's also an extremely good author. You should buy his book, like Overturned. Really, no, seriously, it's really good. He was one of my early readers and gave me some really good feedback on it. And the nicest compliment I think I've had so far from an early reader was that when he read this section, he wrote "Wow" in the margin. Kind of that was his note on this particular scene. So we'll have a bit of blood. So this is from. The fun of writing the book was the ways in which we've changed and the ways in which we've stayed the same. A lot of the book is about the kind of ideas for happiness, unwise wars in the Middle East, stuff that remains kind of contemporaneous and continues to be done, sort of value of currency and this kind of stuff. But also the fun of it was the parts that seem very, very strange and very, very odd to a kind of contemporary reader. So this is one of those scenes. This is I don't think it drops any spoilers for anything. It's kind of a third of the way through the book, but it's a big sacrifice. If you wanted to do something significant in the ancient world, that's time's up, I guess. If you want to do anything significant in the ancient world, you sacrificed the oracle at Delphi, who then gave you a slightly reinterpretable prophecy back that allowed you to do anything. So, and Croesus at this point is the richest man in the world. And so he's determined to do the biggest sacrifice that he can. So we'll go for that. I won't say what he's sacrificing for, but that won't matter for this section. The main square in the lower city was vast, designed for great public occasions. But this time it was not large enough. The scale of the sacrifice was unprecedented. 12,000 sheep, goats, bulls and pigs, each flanked by the head of a household, filled the square and packed every street that led into it. Even the rooftops were alive with women and children, for everyone in the city had come to bear witness. Above them all, on the balcony of the palace, Croesus looked down on the streets of the lower city far beneath him. He inhaled the smell of Sardis, listened to the sounds that filtered, faint and distorted, from the streets below him. The air was thick with the earthy stink of the animals, the chatter of the people as they waited for the ritual to begin. There had been many arguments between neighbours as to where they would stand, who would be closest to the central square and claim the greater glory. Some had been settled with fistfights, others with quiet bribes to nearby soldiers or priests. The poorest stood cramped in the side streets and back alleys, the richer shopkeepers on the main thoroughfares, the nobility in the central square itself. All waited for the king. Croesus signalled, and the soldier beside him blew a single long note from the bullhorn that was slung around his neck. The chattering roar of the people ceased. Each of the 12,000 men gripped the hair of the animal at his side and looked up to the king. They did not wait for him to speak, for he was too distant for them to hear him. They awaited a sign. Croesus glanced over to the other side of the balcony. The goat, its coat pure white, ruminated calmly next to him. Sensing the king's gaze, it inclined its head to face him. Its black rectangular pupils passed over Croesus with little interest until it caught sight of a roll of parchment thrust into his belt. It lunged forward, its lips parted in snuffling to the paper, but Croesus pushed his questing nose away, letting his fingers trail down through its coarse wisp of beard. He took a silver cup of water from the edge of the balcony and raised it high in the air as a signal to those who waited below. In the square and the streets beneath the citadel, each man took a cup of water, lifted it high, and poured it over the head of the beast in front of him. Each animal, feeling the water running over its head, instinctively nodded as if in unwitting agreement, giving its consent for the sacrifice. Croesus lifted his curved knife. 12,000 blades shone an answer back to him. Then the knives fell, digging and cutting and sawing, and waves of blood poured out like an onrushing tide. The air was filled with the screams of the dying animals as they slumped to their knees and the blood boiled up through their mouths. A moment later, the sound was drowned out by the people of Sardis, roaring in celebration. The king's hands trembled, and a priest stood nearby to second his attempt if he faltered. But he had been well instructed and made no mistake. He reached forward and opened the animal's throat with a single cut. The goat gave a single barked bleat of confusion more than pain. It dropped its head and choked, then fell to its knees. It moaned mournfully, shivered and rested its head on its forelegs. It watched its own hot blood spread around it like a crimson blanket. Its eyes grew dim, and then half closed, a tiny glint of gold visible through the thin slit of the eyelids. It lay still and waited to die. That'll do for now. Firstly, autobiographically, when I was a kid, a goat ate my hair. Farm, and it just took a chunk right out of it, and I was scared of goats until I was like in my teens. So I got some revenge. And also there is a wee shindig back at Vestal's place after things kind of conclude here at about 9, and me and Vestal have cards that tell you how to get there. It's kind of down Lewisham way, sort of DLR and then a bus across. But I assume I'm welcome to invite everyone.
Oh, yeah.